If it's always someone else's fault, you're not growing. That's not just a quote. It's a reality check. If you keep blaming people for how your life feels, you'll never move forward. It's easy to say, "They hurt me. They didn't support me. They held me back." But here's the truth. The more you blame, the more stuck you stay. Growth starts the moment you stop pointing fingers and start asking yourself, what can I do about it? This video is not about judging you. It's about waking you up. You want real change? You've got to be real with yourself. No more hiding behind excuses. No more waiting for someone else to fix things. If your life matters to you, it's time to take control of it. This talk will push you, but it will also free you. Because once you stop blaming, you start growing. And that changes everything. From the inside out. Watch closely. Chapter 1. Accept that nobody owes you a better life. That's the starting point. That's where real growth begins. Because the truth is, the world doesn't owe you anything. Not success, not happiness, not comfort, not even fairness. And the sooner you truly accept that, the sooner you step into your own power. People wait. They wait for someone to notice them, to choose them, to hand them something. They wait for their boss to recognize their worth. They wait for family to support them. They wait for the right time. And while they wait, they waste. They waste months. They waste years. They waste their potential. They stay stuck because they keep believing that someone else is supposed to make things better for them. But the hard truth? Nobody is coming to make it easier. Nobody is going to push you forward every day. Nobody is going to pick you up and carry you toward your goals. That's on you. When you were younger, maybe people did things for you. Parents stepped in, teachers gave you another chance, friends helped cover for your mistakes. But now, you're grown. This is your life, and nobody is responsible for making it work but you. Accepting that truth stings. It cuts deep at first, because it means you can't blame anymore. You can't blame your past, you can't blame your environment, you can't blame your parents, your boss, your partner, your friends, or the economy. You can't blame the people who left you or the ones who never showed up. You have to face the truth. Your life is what you make it, and what you allow, and what you tolerate. There's something freeing about that, even if it hurts. When you stop expecting someone else to change your life, you finally realize that you are the one who can change it. And that's power. That's freedom. That's control. You can't grow if you think someone else holds the key to your future. You can't become the person you're meant to be if you're still pointing fingers. Because every time you say it's their fault, you give them control. And once you give someone control, you lose momentum. You lose motivation. You sit back and wait, hoping someone does something different so you can finally start moving. People will let you down. That's guaranteed. Someone you counted on will disappoint you. Life will hand you moments that feel unfair. That's not up for debate. But what is up to you is what you do next. Do you sit in that unfairness? Do you use it as an excuse to stay stuck? Or do you stand up and say, "This is mine now. I own this. I'm responsible for what happens from here"? It's easy to blame. That's why people do it. Blame gives you a short burst of comfort. It tells you it's not your fault, so you don't have to feel bad. But comfort is not the same as growth. In fact, most of the time it's the opposite. Growth begins where comfort ends. When you accept that nobody owes you anything, you start showing up differently. You stop complaining about not having enough time. You start making time. You stop waiting to feel motivated. You start taking action even when you're tired. You stop blaming the past for who you are now. You start creating the future with what you've got. You move forward, even with doubts, even with fear. Most people don't get that far. Most people live their entire lives wishing someone would come along and fix it for them. But nobody fixes it. Not in the real world. In the real world, you have to fix it yourself. And when you do, that's when you get stronger. That's when you feel proud. That's when you start growing for real. This mindset, this shift, is not about becoming cold. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending that people haven't hurt you. It's about deciding that your future is too important to be held hostage by what someone else did or didn't do. It's about saying, I can't change the past, but I can change where I go from here. If your life isn't where you want it to be, ask yourself one question: what am I doing about it today? Not what did they do to stop me, not what did I miss out on, not what should have happened. What am I doing right now? That moves me closer. You get better when you start answering that question every single day. You grow when you stop waiting. You change when you finally say, I'll carry this on my own if I have to. And yes, it's hard. Growth is hard. Ownership is hard. Taking responsibility is hard. But it's also the only thing that works. Nobody respects someone who complains constantly. Nobody follows someone who refuses to look in the mirror. People grow when they stop hiding from their own choices. Ask yourself, are you showing up fully? Or are you showing up with condition? Are you putting in the work, or are you waiting until you feel like it? Are you creating a life you're proud of, or are you hoping someone shows up and gives it to you? If you don't accept responsibility, you'll keep repeating the same cycle. You'll get stuck in the same relationships. You'll land in the same financial mess. You'll feel the same doubts. And it'll feel like life is punishing you. But it's not life. It's your mindset. It's your habits. It's your unwillingness to take control. People say they want growth, but they don't want to let go of blame. You can't have both. Growth means looking at everything with honesty. Growth means saying, that was on me, and doing something about it. Growth means not waiting for the apology, not waiting for the perfect timing, not waiting for things to be easier. It means starting now. You owe yourself effort. You owe yourself action. You owe yourself commitment. But the world doesn't owe you anything. If you get that deep in your core, your life will change. You'll stop complaining about how others live. You'll stop worrying about what people think. You'll stop feeling bitter when someone else gets a win, because you'll be too focused on your own path. You'll be too committed to your own journey. People respect people who take charge, who take hits and keep going, who don't collapse when life gets messy. You can become that person. But not if you keep looking for someone else to do the hard part. You want better? Work for it. You want peace? Create it. You want to grow? Take ownership. Nobody's handing it to you. And that's not bad news. That's the best news you'll hear, because once you stop waiting for someone to save you, you realize you can save yourself. And when you do, nobody can stop you. Not rejection, not failure, not criticism, not even the past. You've got what you need right now. You've got a mind that can decide, a heart that can endure, a body that can take action. So use it today. Use it to take one step forward. Use it to prove to yourself that you're not done yet. Use it to create a better future, starting from where you are. Not because someone helped you, not because someone gave you permission, but because you finally accepted that no one owes you a better life, and you're ready to build it yourself. Chapter 2. Look at what you are avoiding every day. If you really want to grow, if you want to change your life in a way that feels real and lasting, Then you need to look at the things you avoid every single day, not once in a while, not when life falls apart, every day. Because the truth is, what you avoid is exactly what is holding you back. And until you face it, you stay stuck. Growth doesn't come from what's easy. Growth comes from what's uncomfortable. And usually the most uncomfortable part of life isn't the people or the situations. It's the truth we refuse to look at, the conversation we keep postponing, the habit we know is hurting us, the responsibility we keep pushing aside. These things don't go away on their own. They grow in the background, they take over quietly, and they eat away at our progress without us even noticing. Most people don't avoid the hard stuff because they're lazy. They avoid it because they're scared. Scared of what facing it will make them feel, scared of how others might react, scared of failing, scared of not being enough. So instead of dealing with it, they hide it under distractions. They scroll, they binge, they keep busy, they lie to themselves, and on the surface, life looks okay, but deep inside, they know something's off. They know there's a part of them they're not dealing with, and that part, that avoided part, is the key to their next level. It could be a decision you keep postponing. Maybe it's leaving something that no longer helps you grow. Maybe it's starting something you've been talking about for years but never actually doing. Maybe it's fixing a broken pattern in your mindset. Whatever it is, it's personal. You know what it is. You don't need anyone else to point it out. You feel it. You've been feeling it for a while, and you've been hoping that it would just fix itself. But it won't. It never does. You avoid what challenges your sense of comfort. You avoid what forces you to grow faster than you feel ready for. But life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Life keeps moving. And if you keep hiding from the things that are asking for your attention, eventually they show up in ways you can't ignore. Avoiding something doesn't remove the pressure, it adds to it. Avoidance is a silent weight. It stays on your shoulders every day, and over time that weight becomes the reason you feel drained, the reason you feel disconnected, the reason you stop trusting yourself, because deep down, a part of you knows you're running from what matters. Real confidence doesn't come from pretending everything's fine. It comes from facing the things you've been afraid of and proving to yourself that you can handle them, that you're stronger than you think, that you don't need to run anymore, that you're not a victim of your fear. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like sitting down with yourself and being completely honest. It's when you ask yourself questions like, what am I pretending not to know? What truth am I avoiding because I don't want to deal with it? What am I choosing to ignore even though I know it matters? And the answers to those questions aren't always comfortable. Sometimes they hurt. Sometimes they show you that you've been lying to yourself. Sometimes they show you that the problem isn't out there, it's inside. But the beauty of that kind of honesty is that once you face it, you finally have power over it. You stop being controlled by fear. You start moving forward with purpose. You can't grow if you're always running. You can't feel peace if you're constantly suppressing what you don't want to face. That's not a real life. That's a version of survival. And you deserve more than just survival. You deserve growth. You deserve to feel strong. But to get there, you have to look at what you've been avoiding. It could be the habit that's keeping you stuck, that thing you do when you're stressed, the way you avoid taking care of your health, the way you shut down when things get difficult. It could be the way you treat your time, the way you procrastinate and call it rest, the way you stay in places that drain you just because change feels scary. You tell yourself, I'll fix it later, but later becomes never. And then one day you realize you're still in the same place you were a year ago. Not because life stopped you, but because you avoided the one thing that could have set you free. Growth is never about doing everything at once. It's about facing one thing each day that you've been avoiding. That's where progress lives, not in massive leaps, but in steady steps toward what's hard, toward what's real. Think about how much energy you spend avoiding what you know needs your attention. Think about how many moments pass you by while you put off the thing that matters. Think about the pressure that builds up every time you pretend it doesn't matter. And then ask yourself, what would happen if I just faced it? Today, not perfectly, not completely, just honestly. You don't need to fix everything in one day. You just need to stop hiding. You need to admit what's not working. You need to say, this is the thing that's been stopping me, and I'm ready to deal with it now. That's the shift. That's the spark that starts everything. There's strength in facing the truth. There's freedom in not needing to avoid anymore, because once you look it in the eye, it loses its power. You realize it wasn't as big as you made it in your mind. You realize that running made it grow, but facing it makes you grow. It could be a habit, a relationship, a mindset, a commitment you broke with yourself. Whatever it is, today is a good day to stop avoiding it. Today is a good day to take it seriously, because your future is being shaped by what you choose to deal with or ignore right now. You want peace? Face what's been stealing it. You want strength? Handle what you keep pushing away. You want to grow? Do the things you're scared of. You don't need to feel ready. You don't need everything to line up. You just need to be willing. Most people spend their whole lives avoiding the one thing that would change everything for them. Don't be most people. Be the one who chooses courage over comfort. Be the one who looks in the mirror and says, I'm not hiding anymore. The life you want doesn't come from pretending. It comes from honesty. It comes from action. It comes from the quiet decision to face what matters, even when it's uncomfortable, because you care about who you're becoming more than you care about staying safe. So today, ask yourself one question with real honesty. What am I avoiding? And then, whatever the answer is, no matter how small or big, decide to face it. That's where your growth begins. That's where your strength builds. That's where your life starts to move forward again. And from that moment on, you no longer live in avoidance. You live in truth. You live in action. You live in power. That's the kind of life worth building. And it starts today.
Chapter 3. Stop defending yourself and start understanding yourself. Most people spend more time trying to protect their image than they do trying to understand their own behavior. They defend, they justify, they argue, they explain, not to improve, but to avoid discomfort. When something challenges how they see themselves, they react, they get loud, they get defensive, they shut down. But the truth is, growth doesn't come from defending yourself. It comes from understanding yourself. You can't improve what you refuse to look at honestly, and you can't look at yourself honestly if you're always trying to prove that you're already right. If your first instinct is to protect your ego every time someone gives you feedback, you'll never change. You'll never see the blind spots that keep you stuck, and you'll keep repeating the same patterns while convincing yourself that it's everyone else's fault. When someone says something that triggers you, pause. Ask yourself, why did that hit me so hard? Not so you can tear yourself down, but so you can learn. Every reaction is information. Every emotional spike is a signal. But if you're too busy trying to defend your story, you'll miss the lesson. You'll keep holding on to beliefs that don't serve you. You'll keep responding with walls instead of with awareness. Understanding yourself isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it means realizing you've been wrong. Sometimes it means seeing that your version of events wasn't accurate. Sometimes it means accepting that you hurt someone even when you didn't mean to. And that's tough to face. But that's where real character is built, in the ability to be honest with yourself without falling apart. People think that admitting fault is weakness. It's not. Weakness is needing to be seen as perfect. Strength is saying, yes, I did that, and here's what I've learned. Strength is not hiding behind excuses. It's facing your behavior head-on and choosing to grow from it. You don't grow by proving your point. You grow by questioning it. You grow by sitting with discomfort long enough to ask, what's really going on inside me? Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's insecurity. Maybe it's pride. Whatever it is, once you see it clearly, you're no longer controlled by it. You can work with it. You can rise above it. Most arguments aren't really about what's happening in the moment. They're about deeper issues that have never been addressed. That's why people get so emotional over small things, because those small things touch old wounds. But instead of trying to heal those wounds, most people defend them. They pretend they're not there. They fight to protect an image that's built on avoiding the truth. When you stop defending yourself, you start getting honest. You start paying attention to what triggers you. You notice when your emotions take over. You stop trying to win every conversation. You start asking better questions. What made me feel that way? Why did I react so quickly? What belief is sitting underneath that emotion? That's maturity. That's emotional strength. And it takes courage, because it's easier to say, they were wrong. It's harder to say, I need to look at myself more closely. But the second path is the only one that leads to lasting change. The second path builds a better version of you. You don't need to prove yourself to everyone. You don't need to convince the world that you've got it all figured out. What you need is to understand what's going on inside of you. What patterns are shaping your life? What thoughts are influencing your behavior? What fears are driving your decisions? Because until you understand those things, you're not really in control. Understanding yourself leads to peace. It doesn't mean you'll never feel upset or triggered again. But it does mean you'll know how to handle those moments better. You'll recognize them. You'll pause. You'll think. You'll choose your response instead of reacting on impulse. And that makes all the difference. So much of personal growth is about learning to sit with yourself and observe. Not judge. Not attack. Just observe. There's that feeling again. What's it tied to? There's that reaction. Where did it come from? And when you get used to doing that, something powerful happens. You start catching things before they control you. You start breaking cycles before they repeat. You stop needing to defend yourself because you're no longer afraid of what you'll find. People think self-awareness is passive. It's not. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do because it requires brutal honesty. It requires humility. It requires slowing down when everything in you wants to speed up. And it requires choosing growth over pride. Ask yourself, how often do you explain yourself out of responsibility? How often do you say, that's just the way I am, instead of asking, why am I like this? How often do you rush to defend instead of listening to understand? These questions aren't easy, but they're necessary. They open the door to a deeper version of you, a version that's no longer running, no longer hiding, no longer pretending. You can either build your life around defending who you think you are, or you can build your life around becoming who you were meant to be. One of those options leads to more stress, more conflict, more pressure. The other leads to peace, growth, and strength. Stop saying, that's just how I react. Start asking, where did that reaction come from? Stop saying, That's just how I think. Start asking, who taught me to think that way? Stop saying, I didn't mean it like that. Start asking, how did they experience what I said? That shift from defense to understanding will change everything. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to get it right all the time. You just need to be willing to look at yourself clearly. And that means putting your ego aside. It means not needing to be right. It means being okay with being wrong. If that wrong leads to learning, you become more powerful the moment you stop being afraid of seeing your flaws. Because now those flaws are no longer controlling you from the shadows. You're bringing them to the light. You're learning. You're adjusting. You're doing the work. This is what growth looks like. It's not flashy. It's not always fun. But it's real. And real growth shows up in your habits. In how you treat people. In how you talk to yourself. In how you respond under pressure. You'll never regret understanding yourself better. You'll never regret being more self-aware. You'll never regret doing the work that helps you grow. What you will regret is wasting time defending things that weren't worth defending. Holding on to stories that no longer serve you. Fighting to protect a version of yourself that you've already outgrown. So if you're tired of the stress, if you're tired of repeating the same emotional cycles, if you're tired of feeling stuck, then stop trying to prove your point. Start trying to understand it. Stop trying to be right. Start trying to grow. The moment you choose understanding over defense is the moment you begin to step into the strongest version of yourself. A version that's clear. A version that's clear. A version that's grounded. A version that doesn't need to argue to feel secure, because now your security comes from knowing who you are and who you're becoming, not from proving it to anyone else. That's real power. That's real confidence. And it starts the moment you decide to stop defending and start understanding. Not once, but every day, because this work never ends. But the more you do it, the more peace you create, the more control you gain, the more progress you see, and the more you realize this is what it means to grow.
Chapter 4. Face your need to control every situation honestly. One of the hardest things to admit is how much we try to control everything around us, and not because we're bad people, not because we have bad intentions, but because control feels like safety. It gives us a sense that everything will be okay as long as we can manage every part of it. But real life doesn't work that way. Things go wrong, people do things we don't expect, plans fall apart, and if you live your life trying to control every situation, you will always be on edge. You will always feel anxious. You will always be one step away from a breakdown. Control is often a mask for fear. It's the fear of uncertainty, the fear of being hurt, the fear of something not going your way. So you try to grip tighter. You try to make sure everything is done your way, on your timeline, without surprise. You check things repeatedly. You micromanage. You overthink. You push people, you become tense over the smallest details, and in your mind, you think you're being responsible. You think you're staying ahead of problems. But in reality, you're exhausting yourself. You're robbing yourself of peace. You're creating a life that depends on perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. You might think that being in control keeps things stable, but what it actually does is keep you in a cycle of stress. Every time something slips out of your hands, your mind goes into overdrive. You replay scenarios, you blame yourself, you blame others, you question everything. And all of that happens because your sense of stability is tied to how much control you have. That's not stability, that's pressure, that's tension, that's fear pretending to be responsibility. Real stability doesn't come from control, it comes from trust.
It comes from knowing that you'll handle whatever happens, not that you'll prevent everything from happening. And that shift, that mindset shift, is what frees you. It's what allows you to breathe. It's what allows you to be present. Because now you're no longer trying to shape every outcome. You're focused on showing up fully, doing your best, and letting the rest unfold without panic. There's a difference between taking responsibility and trying to control everything. Taking responsibility means showing up, being prepared, doing the work. But control goes further. Control says nothing can go wrong. It demands certainty. It wants guarantees. And that's the part that creates internal chaos. Because life will never give you guarantees. It will give you chances. It will give you lessons. It will give you moments. But never guarantees. And here's the truth that's hard to admit. Trying to control everything doesn't protect you from pain. It creates more of it. You get frustrated when people don't meet your expectations. You feel overwhelmed when plans change. You lose trust in others because you expect them to do things exactly how you would. You push people away, not because you want to, but because your need for control leaves no room for anyone else to show up differently. If you're honest with yourself, ask this: what are you really trying to avoid by controlling everything? Maybe it's the fear of being disappointed. Maybe it's the fear of failing. Maybe it's the fear of being misunderstood. Whatever it is, the answer isn't more control, it's more courage. It's the courage to let go when needed. The courage to trust others. The courage to accept that not everything needs to go your way for life to be good. Some things need to fall apart so better things can come together. But if you keep forcing what's not working, if you keep trying to fix what's out of your hands, you're not growing, you're surviving, you're reacting, and you're missing the chance to learn how to adapt. Growth doesn't come from controlling the environment. It comes from learning how to respond with strength and clarity when the environment changes. It comes from letting go of the need to script every moment and instead asking, how can I show up right now, fully present, without needing everything to be perfect? When you live with a tight grip on everything, you leave no room for peace. You're always thinking, always planning, always preparing for what could go wrong. And in doing so, you miss what's going right. You miss the small wins. You miss the joy. You miss the ease. Not because life is bad, but because your mind is too focused on control to see the good. It's okay to have standards. It's okay to have goals. It's okay to have structure. But when those things become rules that choke your peace, it's time to step back. It's time to ask, what am I really afraid of here? Why do I need this to go exactly how I planned? What would happen if I allowed things to unfold naturally? You won't fall apart. You'll find that you're stronger than you thought. You'll discover that most of what you fear isn't as bad as you imagined. You'll realize that people can surprise you in good ways when you stop controlling everything they do. You'll grow in ways that structured control could never give you. It's not about becoming careless, it's about becoming calm. It's about releasing the burden of needing to force life into a specific shape. It's about finding balance between effort and trust. You give your best, and then you let go of the outcome. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Think about how much energy you've spent trying to manage what was never yours to manage. Think about the sleepless nights, the emotional burnout, the tension in your body. Think about the conversations you've ruined by trying to control someone else's words. Think about the moments you didn't enjoy because you were too focused on controlling how they should go. Is it really worth it? You can still lead a meaningful life without controlling every detail. You can still be excellent without being obsessed. You can still grow without forcing growth to happen faster. You can still be strong and still say, I don't have all the answers right now, but I'm willing to keep going. What matters is that you begin to notice when control starts taking over, when you feel anxious over things that haven't even happened yet, when you hold people to unrealistic expectations, when you blame yourself for every little misstep, when you feel the urge to fix something that's not even broken. These are signs. These are signals, not that you're failing, but that it's time to slow down and get honest. Be honest about your patterns. Be honest about how often you need things your way to feel safe. Be honest about how that's affecting your peace. And then choose differently. Choose to trust a little more. Choose to step back when the urge to control kicks in. Choose to say, this doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel more grounded. You'll feel connected, not just to others, but to yourself. Because you're no longer trying to run the show, you're learning how to live it. You're letting life be life, and you're letting yourself be part of it, without tension, without force, without fear. The next time you feel the need to control something, ask yourself, what if I didn't? Not because you're giving up, but because you're giving yourself a chance to grow, and in that space between control and surrender, you'll find a version of yourself that's calm, clear, and finally free. Chapter 5. Pay attention to how you react under pressure. Pressure reveals what's really inside of you. It doesn't create your weaknesses, it exposes them. It doesn't make you lose control, it shows you where you never had it. Most people think they know who they are until life tests them. They think they've grown until things get uncomfortable. They believe they're calm and steady until the pressure hits. And that's when the real version of them shows up. Not the version they talk about, but the version that reacts in the moment. It's easy to stay composed when everything is going your way. It's easy to act like you've got it all figured out when no one is pushing your limits. But life isn't lived in comfort. Life is lived in moments that challenge you, frustrate you, stretch you, and test your patience. And if you don't take time to notice how you react under pressure, you'll miss the opportunity to grow. You'll repeat the same emotional habits again and again, and you'll convince yourself that it's just the way things are. But it's not. Your reaction is a choice, even when it feels automatic. It's a habit. And habits can be changed, but only if you pay attention. Most people are not aware of their default responses. They snap when they feel misunderstood. They shut down when they're overwhelmed. They blame others when they feel exposed. They run when things get too hard. And they call it normal. They call it stress. But the truth is, those reactions are not fixed traits. They are signs that there's something deeper you haven't dealt with yet. If you want to grow, you have to study yourself in the moments that stretch you. When someone disagrees with you, how do you respond? Do you listen, or do you defend? When plans fall apart, do you adapt, or do you panic? When the pressure rises, do you lean into the challenge, or do you let frustration take over? These are not surface-level moments. These are reflections of who you are when comfort is removed. And that's the version of you that matters most. There's no shame in reacting badly. Everyone does at times. But if you keep excusing your reactions, you'll never rise above them. You'll stay stuck in the same emotional cycle, getting angry at the same things, shutting down in the same situations, and telling yourself that it's just how life works. It's not. That's just how your habits are working. And until you disrupt those habits with awareness, nothing will change. Pressure is a mirror. It shows you the parts of yourself that still need your attention. Not because you're broken, but because you're still growing. You have to be willing to look at that mirror and not turn away. You have to be able to say, I didn't like how I handled that. I need to understand why. That sentence spoken honestly is more powerful than any excuse, because it opens the door to real change. You can't change what you don't notice, and you won't notice anything if you're too busy defending your reactions. You've got to slow down. You've got to watch yourself. You've got to observe the way your emotions rise, where they come from, and how they take over. That's not weakness, that's maturity. That's strength. That's discipline. And that's what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. In pressure moments, the most powerful thing you can do is pause. Just a few seconds of silence before reacting can save you hours of regret. That pause creates space. And in that space, you can choose something different. You can choose patience. You can choose clarity. You can choose a response that reflects your values instead of your wounds. That's how growth happens. One conscious choice at a time. You'll start to notice patterns. Maybe you get angry when you feel ignored. Maybe you get defensive when you feel judged. Maybe you lash out when you feel powerless. Those reactions are not random. They come from stories you've been carrying, stories you haven't challenged yet. And when pressure brings them to the surface, that's your chance. That's your moment to change the story. Changing the story doesn't mean pretending you're okay when you're not. It means understanding where your emotions come from and deciding how you want to respond instead. It means saying, yes, this is frustrating, but I'm not going to let it control me. It means saying, I'm feeling triggered, but I'm going to breathe before I speak. It means learning how to stay grounded even when everything around you feels unstable. Emotional maturity is built in these moments. It's built when you stop reacting just to feel better in the moment and start responding in ways that align with who you want to become. It's built when you stay calm while others panic. When you stay focused when others complain. When you speak clearly instead of shout. When you walk away instead of escalating. That's what real strength looks like. And it's not something you're born with. It's something you build. The next time you're under pressure, watch yourself. Don't judge it. Just notice it. Notice the rise of tension in your body. Notice the thoughts that flood your mind. Notice the urges you feel to argue, to quit, to blame. And in that moment, ask yourself, is this helping me grow, or is this just repeating the same old story? That question can change everything. Over time, you'll start to take pride in your ability to handle pressure well. Not because you never feel it, but because you've trained yourself to manage it. You've learned how to stay centered. You've learned how to stay present. You've learned how to choose growth over reaction. And people will notice. They'll trust you more. They'll respect you more. Because in a world full of chaos, calm is rare. Composure is rare. And when you have it, you stand out, not by force but by example. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to never react. But you do need to be honest with yourself about the reactions you repeat. You do need to be aware of the damage your emotional habits might be causing. You do need to be willing to change the way you show up under pressure. Not for others, but for yourself. Because the way you respond to pressure shapes your relationships, your goals, your progress, and your self-respect. You'll always have challenges. You'll always have stress. Life will always test you. That's not going to change. What can change is your response. What can grow is your awareness. What can evolve is your ability to stay grounded when everything around you feels heavy. Pay attention. That's the key. Don't rush past those moments. Don't act like they didn't happen. Sit with them, study them, learn from them, because each one is a window into your next level of strength. Each one is a lesson waiting to be understood. Each one is a chance to break free from patterns that have been holding you back for years. Growth isn't just about what you do when things are easy. It's about who you are when things get hard. And if you can build that version of you, if you can learn to pause, reflect, and respond with strength, you'll become the kind of person that pressure can't break. You'll stop losing progress every time life gets tough. You'll stop starting over because of a reaction you couldn't control. You'll stop apologizing for behavior that doesn't reflect who you truly are. This is your opportunity to evolve. This is your moment to pay close attention. This is where the work gets real, and this is where you grow. Not in theory, not in talk, but in action, in choice, in awareness, in presence. You've got it in you. Start proving it. When it counts most, start proving it. When the pressure rises, that's the real test, and you're ready to pass it.
Chapter 6. Call yourself out when you play the victim. There comes a point in your life where you have to stop lying to yourself and start calling out your own patterns. One of the most important patterns to recognize is when you're slipping into the role of the victim. It doesn't always look dramatic. It doesn't always come with tears or breakdowns. Sometimes it sounds like subtle complaints, quiet blame, silent bitterness. But it's there. And if you don't catch it, it will take over. It will start shaping how you see your life, how you treat people, how you show up every day. When you play the victim, you give away your power. You let your past decide your future. You let what happened to you become your identity. You let your pain speak louder than your purpose. And the longer you stay in that mindset, the more stuck you feel. Life begins to feel like something happening to you, not something you're building. Everything feels heavy. Every setback feels unfair. Every challenge feels personal. And slowly, without realizing it, you start blaming the world for where you are. But if you're being honest with yourself, you know that blaming doesn't fix anything. It doesn't heal the pain. It doesn't move your goals forward. It doesn't give you clarity. It just keeps you circling the same thoughts, the same emotions, the same excuses. And that cycle will keep you trapped as long as you stay in it. The truth is, life is hard for everyone. You're not the only one who's been hurt. You're not the only one who's had to face disappointment, betrayal, loss, or failure. The difference is what you do with it. Do you let it define you, or do you grow through it? The victim mindset is seductive. It gives you a way to avoid responsibility. It tells you that you're not the problem. It says it's someone else's fault. And for a moment, that feels good. It feels like relief. But it's temporary. And eventually, that relief turns into regret. Because while you're blaming, you're not building. While you're waiting for someone else to change, you're wasting time that could have been spent changing yourself. If you want to grow, you've got to be brutally honest with yourself. You've got to say, that excuse doesn't work anymore. You've got to say, I've used this story long enough. You've got to say, I'm not going to let that old version of me run my life anymore. This isn't about ignoring what happened to you. This isn't about pretending your pain doesn't matter. It's about deciding that your pain won't be your excuse anymore. It's about reclaiming your power from everything that tried to take it. No one gets through life without scars. No one moves forward without setbacks. But some people grow because of them, and others shrink. And the deciding factor is whether or not they take ownership. Are you taking ownership, or are you still telling yourself that someone else is holding you back? You can't change your life if you keep waiting for the world to be fair. You can't level up if your energy is stuck on everything that went wrong. You can't become your strongest self while holding on to a story that keeps you small. Growth begins when you call yourself out. Not with judgment, but with responsibility. Not to beat yourself up, but to remind yourself that you are capable of more. You're not helpless. You're not broken. You're not powerless unless you decide to be. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say, yes, that happened, but it's not the end of my story. You can acknowledge your pain and still choose to rise. You can feel the weight of what hurt you and still take the next step. You can stop waiting for an apology that may never come and start building the life you actually want. There is no growth in blame. There is no progress in self-pity.
There is no peace in waiting for someone else to make it right. You have to decide what kind of person you want to be, and then hold yourself to that standard. Even on the hard days, especially on the hard days, ask yourself this: are you talking like a victim, or are you thinking like a leader? Are you showing up like someone who's building something, or someone who's waiting for something? Are you moving forward, or are you still stuck in a version of your story that keeps you small? These are questions that require honesty. They require courage, and they require self-awareness. Start listening to your own words. Start noticing your thoughts. Start catching yourself when you begin to complain, when you begin to make excuses, when you begin to blame. And instead of going down that path again, choose a different one. Choose the path that says, even if this is hard, I'm still responsible for how I move forward. That's power. That's growth. That's where the change begins. Nobody's going to save you from your story. Nobody's going to come along and undo what happened. But that doesn't mean you're stuck. That doesn't mean you're done. That means it's your job now to stand up and lead your own life. That means you've got to stop playing the victim and start becoming the author. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to take ownership of who you are right now. You just need to say, if I want change, it's on me. If I want peace, I have to create it. If I want progress, I have to commit to it. That mindset doesn't make the pain disappear, but it puts you in control. And once you're in control, you can go anywhere. You are not your mistake. You are not what happened to you. You are not what they said about you. You are who you choose to become now, and that choice happens every day. It happens when you stop blaming. It happens when you stop waiting. It happens when you get up and take one more step even when it's hard. Your future deserves more than your excuses. Your goals deserve more than your complaints. Your peace deserves more than your old story. And your growth requires that you stop protecting the victim mindset and start protecting your potential. You have something inside you that's stronger than your past. You have a voice that can replace your pain, but only if you use it. Only if you stop silencing it with old beliefs and outdated narratives. Every time you play the victim, you give your power away. You hand it to the people who hurt you. You hand it to your circumstances. You hand it to the past. But every time you call yourself out, you take that power back. And the more you do that, the stronger you get, the clearer you think, the more progress you make. You want to feel proud of yourself. Start there. Start with the hard truth. Start with the decision to no longer be the one who complains about life, and instead become the one who builds it. Start with the daily commitment to stop playing small, to stop being passive, to stop living like everything is out of your control. The victim mindset might feel safe, but it's keeping you from the life you're meant to live. It's keeping you from peace, from strength, from clarity. You don't need it anymore. You've carried it long enough. Now it's time to drop it and build something better. And when you do, when you stop blaming and start taking ownership, you'll feel a shift. You'll feel more grounded. You'll feel more focused. You'll feel more alive. Because now your story is no longer something that happened to you. It's something you're writing with every choice you make. And that's where freedom begins. Right there in the decision to call yourself out and grow beyond your excuses.
Chapter 7. Stand up without needing others to rescue you. There comes a time in life when you have to stop waiting for someone to come and save you. Not because people don't care, not because help doesn't exist, but because relying on someone else to pull you out of every hard place will only weaken your ability to stand on your own. There's a certain strength that only shows up when you decide to carry your own weight. It's not loud, it's not dramatic,
It's quiet and steady. It's when you wake up on a hard day and say, "This is still my life. I'm still responsible for how I move forward." Nobody is coming to live your life for you. Nobody is going to walk through your pain, your choices, your habits, your fears, or your future for you. That part is yours, and the sooner you accept that, the faster you stop feeling powerless. Most people are not stuck because of a lack of opportunity. They're stuck because they've been waiting for motivation, waiting for permission, waiting for someone to lift them up and do the hard part for them. But the truth is, if you keep waiting, your life will keep stalling. Nothing changes when you stay in the mindset of needing to be rescued. People will support you, but they can't save you. They can offer advice, but they can't make the changes for you. They can believe in you, but that belief won't do anything if you don't show up for yourself. You have to be the one who decides that your life is too important to leave in someone else's hands. You have to say, "I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not hoping someone else fixes this. I'm not leaning on a rescue. I'm taking the next step even if nobody notices." That kind of ownership isn't easy. It requires you to be honest about where you've been passive. It asks you to face the fact that you've been hoping someone else would do what you've been avoiding. It makes you look at the places in your life where you've been blaming, complaining, or depending too heavily on others. And it forces you to ask yourself, what if no one helps me? What would I do then? Because the truth is, that answer tells you how ready you are to grow. Standing up doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes it just means choosing to show up differently. It means doing the things you said you'd do even when you don't feel like it. It means not waiting for someone to tell you you're strong. You act like it anyway. It means not asking for approval. You decide what matters most to you. It means not needing the world to agree before you move forward. You choose your next step because it aligns with your values, not their opinions. Too many people build their identity around being safe, around the story that someone needs to step in before they can succeed. And the danger in that is this: what happens when no one comes? What happens when support is delayed? What happens when people are too busy with their own battles to carry yours too? That's when you have to rely on the strength you've been avoiding. That's when you realize no one can want your progress more than you do. And that doesn't mean you can't ask for help. It doesn't mean you have to do everything alone. It means you stop waiting for help before you move. It means you start even if you feel unprepared. You begin even if you feel uncertain. You act even when you feel unsupported, because that kind of independence builds resilience, and resilience is what carries you through the moments when help isn't available. Real growth begins the moment you stop depending on external forces to push you, the moment you stop thinking someone owes you strength, the moment you understand that your life is built by what you do daily, not what someone promises you. There's a difference between being helped and being carried. You can accept support without losing your power, but when you need to be carried through every challenge, you stop developing the ability to stand on your own. Standing up without rescue is uncomfortable. It will test your focus. It will challenge your emotions. It will push you to grow faster than you thought you could, but that's the whole point. That's the exact reason why most people avoid it. They don't want that level of pressure, but that pressure is what turns you into someone you can rely on. It's what shows you that you can face hard things and not fall apart. It's what separates those who talk about growth from those who live it. You can't build a strong life on weak habits. You can't build a strong mind while waiting for others to do the hard work. You have to decide that your progress is your job, that your peace is your job, that your future is not a gift. It's a responsibility, and that kind of mindset doesn't come overnight. It comes through repetition. It comes through daily decisions to keep going even when you're tired, even when you feel alone, even when no one claps for you. Ask yourself, where in your life are you still waiting? Where are you expecting someone else to do the lifting? Where are you hoping for a rescue instead of building your strength? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary, because the answers tell you exactly where your next level lives. They show you the parts of your life that need more accountability, and they lead you back to your own power. You're allowed to feel overwhelmed. You're allowed to feel stuck. But you're not allowed to give up on yourself. You're not allowed to hand your life to someone else and expect them to build it for you. You're not allowed to sit on the sidelines when you were meant to be in the game. You were born to create, to lead, to build, to grow, not to wait. And if you've been waiting, that ends today. Today is the day you stand up, not because everything is fixed, not because the fear is gone, not because you have all the answers, but because you're done letting the lack of support stop you. You're done tying your progress to someone else's actions. You're done hoping someone saves you. You're done being passive in a life that needs your full effort. You already have what it takes to move forward, not perfectly, not without fear, but with courage, with intention, with the decision that you will rise with what you have, from where you are, with or without applause. You don't need someone to come and pick you up. You need to believe that your next step matters, even if it's small. You need to trust that every bit of effort you give is building something stronger inside of you. And you need to remember that the more you rely on yourself, the more confident you become. Not because life gets easier, but because you stop needing it to. This is your reminder that you are not powerless. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are growing. You are built. You are learning to show up even when it's hard. And that version of you, the one who stands up without rescue, is the version that will change your life. Not by waiting, not by hoping, but by acting every single day, without excuse, without delay, with commitment, with strength, with full ownership. You don't need anyone to save you. You need to become the kind of person who saves yourself. And from that place, you can go anywhere. You can do anything, because now you're not just surviving life. You're creating it. You're owning it. And no one can take that away from you. Chapter 8. Stop expecting change without doing the hard work. Change doesn't happen just because you want it. It happens when you earn it. Most people say they want change, but very few are willing to do what change really demands. They hope for results, but they avoid the work. They expect something to shift, but they're not doing anything differently. They complain about how things are, but they keep living the same way. That's not how growth works. Nothing moves without effort. Nothing improves without action. Wanting a better life is not enough. You have to build one. There's a trap that a lot of people fall into. It's the belief that thinking about change is the same as working toward it. They feel inspired for a moment, and they think that's momentum. But motivation isn't change. Inspiration without discipline doesn't last. The truth is, if you're not doing the work daily, you're not changing. You're only wishing. And wishing doesn't create new results. It only creates more frustration when things stay the same. Change is uncomfortable. It requires discipline when you don't feel like showing up. It requires saying no to what you want now for what you want long term. It requires you to take full responsibility for the things you've avoided, and that kind of effort is where most people quit. They think it's too much. They think it's unfair. They think it should be easier. But here's the truth. Anything worth having is going to cost you time, effort, and focus. You don't get better by skipping the process. You get better by pushing through it. You can't expect to feel different if you live the same way. You can't expect peace when your habits create chaos. You can't expect progress when you keep doing the things that keep you stuck. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with effort. There's no shortcut, no hack, no fast track. You have to do the work, not once, not for a week. Every day. That means showing up even when it's boring, even when no one notices, even when nothing's changing fast enough. Because real change is built in the small choices. It's built when you stop giving up the moment it gets uncomfortable. It's built when you decide that your goals matter more than your excuses. It's built when you stop looking for the easy way and commit to doing it the right way. You can't cheat growth. You can delay it, you can avoid it, but you can't cheat it. Sooner or later, life will require the work from you, and when it does, you'll either be ready because you've built the habit of effort, or you'll collapse because you've spent too long looking for ways around it. If you want to change your health, you have to move your body and fuel it right. If you want to grow in your career, you have to learn, adapt, and stretch your skills. If you want stronger relationships, you have to communicate clearly and take ownership of your behavior. In every area of life, the formula is the same. You do the work, then you see the result, not the other way around. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards discipline. It rewards dissidence. It rewards those who keep going when the excitement fades. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, if you're frustrated that nothing is changing, stop asking, "Why isn't this working?" and start asking, "Am I really doing the work?" It's easy to be busy and still make no progress. It's easy to talk about goals and never move closer to them. It's easy to plan, to prepare, to dream, but none of those things matter without execution. The hard work is where the real transformation lives. The hard work is where you prove to yourself that you're serious about growth. And sometimes the hardest work isn't physical, it's emotional. It's having honest conversations with yourself. It's confronting your habits. It's facing the truth about your decisions. It's pushing through doubt and fear and insecurity. That's the work most people run from. But that's the exact work that builds your future. Change asks for your effort when you're tired. It asks for focus when you're distracted. It asks for patience when you're anxious. And most of all, it asks for honesty, because you can't grow if you're lying to yourself about how hard you're trying. Stop pretending you don't have time. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop saying you'll start tomorrow. The life you want begins the moment you start doing the work. Not just the visible work, but the internal work, the discipline, the follow-through, the sacrifice. Because no one can do that part for you. That part is yours. The world is full of people who start and stop, who begin with excitement and end with excuses, who talk about change, but don't want to be uncomfortable. Don't let that be you. Decide that your life is worth the sweat, that your goals are worth the pressure, that your peace is worth the discipline. This is not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about waking up each day and choosing to make progress, even if it's small, even if it's invisible, even if no one claps. Because change isn't built in moments of applause. It's built in the grind, in the silence, in the consistency that nobody sees but you. Look around at your life right now. What needs to change? What are you waiting on? What are you hoping will get better on its own? Now ask yourself, what am I doing about it today? Not what you're planning, not what you're thinking. What are you doing? If the answer is nothing, then you already know why nothing is changing. If the answer is something, then keep going. Keep doing it even when it feels slow. Because slow progress is still progress. And every step you take builds trust with yourself. Every day you show up is a vote for the person you're becoming. You don't get strong without stress. You don't get clear without confusion. You don't grow without discomfort. If you expect change to be easy, you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you expect it to be hard and you still commit, you'll surprise yourself. You'll start to see that the work changes you long before the results do. You'll feel more confident, not because everything's fixed, but because you're showing up for yourself. You'll feel more grounded, not because life gets easier, but because you've built the strength to handle it. That's what the hard work gives you. It doesn't just change your life, it changes you. And once you've done that kind of work, nobody can take that away. It's yours. You earned it, not with talk but with action, not with hopes, but with habits. So if you're serious about change, stop looking for signs. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop asking for shortcuts. Start doing the work, the real work, the hard work, the kind that demands more from you than you've given before. Because that's where your future lives. Not in your plans, not in your dreams, but in the effort you give today. And when you choose to give it fully, without excuse, you'll finally start to see the change you've been waiting for. Not because it showed up on its own, but because you built it. You earned it. You became it. One day at a time. One choice at a time. One hard step at a time.
Chapter 9. Notice how blame gives you short-term comfort. Blame feels good in the moment. It gives you a way out. It helps you feel like the pressure isn't on you. It creates a story where you're not the one who failed, you're just the one who was treated unfairly. It's a quick emotional relief. It lets you walk away from the hard truth and point at someone else. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Because while blame offers comfort in the short term, it costs you growth in the long run. When you blame, you shift focus away from what you can control and give power to everything you can't. You hand over your ability to change the situation. You stop asking yourself what you can learn, what you can do, or how you can improve. You tell yourself the problem is outside of you, and if that's true, there's no reason to try, and so nothing changes. You stay stuck, not because the problem is too big, but because blame convinced you that you're not the one who has to solve it. It starts small. Something goes wrong, and your mind immediately looks for a target. Someone said the wrong thing. Someone let you down. Someone didn't give you a chance. Something outside of you messed it all up. And maybe that's partly true. But when that becomes your habit, when blaming becomes your pattern, you stop holding yourself accountable for the part you can influence. You stop growing. Blame is a way of saying this isn't my responsibility, but the truth is, responsibility is the path to power. When you own your role, you take back control. When you say, here's what I could have done better, you gain the ability to make things better next time. But if every setback is someone else's fault, then what can you do? Nothing. And that's exactly what happens. You do nothing. You just sit with the same emotions, thinking about how unfair things are, waiting for someone else to fix it. That short-term comfort is a trap. It feels like peace, but it's not. It's avoidance, and avoidance always catches up with you. Because the same situations will keep showing up. The same frustrations will follow you from place to place. The same failures will repeat themselves until you finally stop blaming and start looking inward. Blame stops progress. It stops reflection. It stops learning. And worst of all, it gives you a reason to stay the same. You say, it's not my fault, and suddenly there's no need to try harder, think deeper, or do better. But if you keep living that way, you rob yourself of growth. You keep walking in circles wondering why nothing's changing, not realizing that your refusal to look at yourself is the reason you're stuck. Owning your part doesn't mean you're to blame for everything. It means you're willing to examine what you bring to the table. It means you're honest enough to ask, what part of this do I need to take responsibility for? That question doesn't make you weak, it makes you stronger. Because once you see your role clearly, you can improve it. You can change. You can grow.
Blame makes you feel right, but being right doesn't always help you grow. Sometimes you have to let go of being right so you can do what's right. And what's right is asking yourself hard questions. Did I prepare enough? Did I communicate clearly? Did I react from emotion instead of clarity? Did I let fear or ego get in the way? These aren't easy questions, but they lead to better answers. Answers that move you forward. Answers that make you better. The moment you stop blaming is the moment you step into maturity. You stop needing to protect your image and start protecting your future. You stop hiding behind excuses and start taking ownership of your effort, your words, your mindset, your results. And once you do that, nobody can stop you, because now you're not waiting for change. You're becoming the reason change happens. People who blame constantly feel powerless. They feel like life is happening to them. They feel like their success depends on luck, or approval, or circumstances. But people who take ownership feel empowered. They don't always get it right, but they always get better, because they're always looking inward, always asking how they can grow. If you want to feel proud of yourself, blame won't get you there. It might protect your ego for a moment, but it damages your confidence in the long run, because deep down, a part of you knows when you're avoiding responsibility. And the more you avoid it, the less you trust yourself, the less you respect your own effort, and that eats away at your belief in what you're capable of. You have to be real with yourself. Are you blaming because it's easier? Are you blaming because you're afraid to face your mistakes? Are you blaming because it feels good to avoid the weight of responsibility? If the answer is yes, then that's your work, not to punish yourself, but to grow up and rise above the mindset that keeps you small. Every person who has done something meaningful has had to stop blaming. They've had to say, even if this wasn't all my fault, I'm still going to take full ownership of what I do next. That's power. That's leadership. That's how you become the kind of person who creates their own momentum, no matter what life throws at them. Blame is heavy. Carry it long enough, and it starts to feel like truth. But it's not. It's just a habit. And like any habit, it can be replaced. You can replace it with self-awareness. You can replace it with discipline. You can replace it with action. But only if you're willing to drop the need to always be right, to always be the victim, to always have an explanation that makes it someone else's responsibility. You don't need that anymore. What you need is to look at your life and say, this is mine. And if I want something different, I have to do something different. That shift is where everything changes. That's where the excuses fall apart. That's where progress begins. You'll notice that the more you stop blaming, the more peace you feel, because now you're not depending on someone else to fix it. You're not angry at the world for not giving you a break. You're focused. You're clear. You're honest. And honesty always leads to growth. So the next time something goes wrong, pause before pointing fingers. Ask yourself what part of it is within your control. Ask yourself how you can grow from it. Ask yourself how you can grow from it. Ask yourself what lesson is being offered to you right now. That reflection won't give you the short-term comfort that blame gives, but it will give you long-term strength. And that's what matters most. Growth lives in ownership. Confidence lives in responsibility, and freedom lives in the decision to stop waiting for others to change and start being the one who leads the change. You'll get further when you stop running from accountability. You'll rise faster when you stop leaning on blame, and you'll finally feel the peace you've been chasing. When you realize it was never about being right, it was about being real. Real with yourself, real with your choices, real with your effort. You're not here to live a life that feels good for a moment. You're here to live a life that builds you into someone strong, steady, and unstoppable. That doesn't come from blaming. That comes from showing up. That comes from doing the inner work. That comes from taking full responsibility, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because that's what growth demands, and you're ready for it. Now prove it. Chapter 10. Choose growth over comfort every time it matters. Every single day, you are given two options. Choose what's easy or choose what helps you grow. And the truth is, the easy path will always feel more appealing in the moment. It's familiar, it's safe, it doesn't stretch you or challenge your beliefs. But it also doesn't take you anywhere new. It keeps you in the same cycles, repeating the same habits, living the same story. Growth, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It demands effort. It asks you to face your weaknesses. It requires you to let go of what's convenient, so you can become someone stronger. When you look at people who are successful, fulfilled, disciplined, those who carry quiet confidence and peace, it's not because life handed them something special. It's because they made a choice, again and again, to pick growth even when comfort was right there in front of them. They woke up early when it was easier to sleep in. They had the hard conversations when silence felt safer. They studied when they wanted to relax. They made sacrifices when others didn't. They gave up short-term pleasure for long-term progress, and those choices shaped who they became. Most people say they want to grow, but when the moment comes to make the hard decision, they back off. They say, "It's not the right time." They say, "I'll start when I'm ready." They wait until everything feels perfect before they act, but that moment never comes. Growth is not something you wait for, it's something you create. You create it when you show up on the days when it would be easier to quit. You create it when you push through resistance, when you say yes to the thing that scares you, when you say no to the thing that distracts you. Comfort feels good now, growth feels good later, and if you want to live a life that you're proud of, you have to be willing to feel a little discomfort now to become the person you want to be later. That means getting uncomfortable with your excuses. It means challenging your habit. It means choosing to do the right thing instead of the easy thing. Every single time it matters, and it doesn't take a dramatic change to get there. It takes one moment, one decision, one step in the direction that scares you, one choice to lean in instead of pull away. One moment where you say, "This isn't comfortable, but it's right." That's where it begins, and that moment will show up more often than you think. You'll see it when you're tempted to stay quiet instead of speaking up, when you're tempted to skip the gym, when you want to avoid the work, when you feel like quitting. In all of those moments, you are being asked to choose who you want to be. Growth is not an event, it's a pattern of choices. It's built in the moments nobody sees. It's built in how you treat your time, how you respond to resistance, how you keep showing up when there's no immediate reward. Because comfort will always try to pull you back into old habits. It will tell you that you're fine where you are, that you don't need to change, that you can do it tomorrow. And if you listen to that voice for too long, you'll look up one day and realize that your life hasn't moved. Comfort keeps you the same. Growth gives you more strength, more clarity, more peace, more fulfillment. But it only gives it to those who earn it, who say no to what's easy and yes to what challenges them, who are willing to feel awkward, to feel uncertain, to feel exposed, just so they can learn something new. People think they need to feel motivated before they act, but motivation doesn't come before action, it comes after. You don't feel inspired to grow until you do something that demands growth. So don't wait to feel like it, don't wait to feel ready, just move. Choose the option that makes you stronger, even if it's harder, especially if it's harder. And don't think it has to be perfect. Growth isn't about doing everything right, it's about doing the right thing, often enough to change who you are. That might mean failing sometimes, that might mean falling short, but even then you're learning, you're adjusting, you're moving forward, That's the point. Comfort wants you to avoid mistakes. Growth wants you to learn from them. Comfort wants to protect your ego. Growth wants to develop your character. Comfort wants to keep you still. Growth wants to pull you forward. Which one are you choosing? Look at your life. Look at the pattern. Are your daily decisions helping you grow, or are they helping you stay where you are? Be honest, because nothing changes until you are. You can't lie to yourself and expect real growth. You can't avoid discomfort and expect real strength. You can't live passively and expect to feel proud. You have to earn that pride. You have to earn that peace. You have to earn the life you want. And that happens by choosing growth when it matters. Not once, not when it's convenient, but every time. When it's early and you're tired. When it's late and you're tempted. When it's easier to say no, but you know the answer is yes. This choice, the choice to grow, will not always feel good. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels heavy. Sometimes it feels thankless. But every time you choose it, you gain something. You gain self-respect. You gain mental toughness. You gain clarity. And eventually, you gain a life that reflects the effort you've given. So stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for comfort. Stop waiting for everything to line up. Make the decision now. The one that takes courage. The one that requires sacrifice. The one that makes you uncomfortable. Because that's the one that will move you forward. Growth happens when you say, I'd rather struggle and get stronger than stay comfortable and stay the same. Growth happens when you say, this is hard, but it's worth it. Growth happens when you prove to yourself that you're willing to do what it takes. This isn't about pushing through pain without rest. It's about choosing what helps you become better instead of what keeps you small. It's about choosing what brings real meaning instead of temporary relief. It's about becoming someone you're proud of, not someone who needs everything to feel easy. You were not built to stay the same. You were built to evolve, to improve, to rise. But that doesn't happen by chance. It happens by choice, by the choices you make when it's uncomfortable, when you're tempted to stay safe, when it's easier to turn back. That's when it matters most. And that's when you have to remember who you want to be. So when the moment comes, and it will, don't choose what numbs you. Don't choose what's quick. Don't choose what's familiar just because it's less scary. Choose the thing that stretches you. Choose the path that strengthens you. Choose growth every time it matters. Because one day, you'll look back at the hard moments, the long nights, the early mornings, the lonely hours, and you'll realize that's when you changed. That's when you became more. That's when you broke the cycle, not in comfort, but in the fire of hard decisions made over and over again. That version of you, the one who chose growth, will always be the one who built the life worth living. So choose it again today, and again tomorrow, until it becomes who you are, until it becomes the standard you never lower, until it becomes the reason you never have to settle again.